Now, I'm just some fat guy on the internet lamenting over the fact that I'm not famous for talking like most people who get famous on the internet for talking. But I wanted to go ahead and just sort of bring this attention to light because it's really bugging me, man. Look, the comic book universe is chock full of people who are very enthusiastic about comics and people who, like, matter of fact, let's go to an even broader scale. Fandom in general are, a weird combination of people who are genuinely interested in the product, people who are creative enough to utilize the product as motivation and inspiration for their own stuff, and people who want to know what Supergirl's feet smell like. We don't talk about them, but we probably might in this video. Look, all I'm saying is that, going down into the comics universe, one of the things that will always sort of bother me is the fact that, like, there's always seems to be a backlash towards diversity when it comes to comics. If a character is in a certain demographic, all of a sudden there's people who openly express their appreciation towards it because it makes them feel represented, it makes them feel seen. And then there's people on the other end who are just angry for what we don't know, right? Because they'll always say something along the lines of, "I'm glad I don't read comics anymore. This is not even something that I will even want to get into." It's like going, well, if you had that kind of visual about this, then why are you responding in the first place? Why are you here? But it's a free site. I can say whatever I want. And it's like, this is what you wanted to say. First off, I'll just, full disclosure, completely like just segue out of it. I do not trust anybody who ever says the phrase, "I do what I want," because they almost never want to do anything good or decent or kind. Like, when was the last time you ever heard somebody say, "I do what I want," and start a charity for injured puppies or something? Like, you rarely ever see that. But when you hear somebody say, "I do what I want," it's because they want to go, shoot fireworks outside naked while, you know, trying to summon space something. I don't know. In a cemetery. I do what I want to do. It's weird, man. But, like, yeah, though, it's really weird because of the fact that it's like my thing is, if you don't like diversity, or if you don't like certain concepts, then why did you read comics in the first place? Because it feels like this was always the concept. Like, it's really weird because, like, if you I'm going to say it's really weird a lot, by the way, because it is weird and I can't stress that enough. Like, the very first Superman comic, I need to understand specifically how long ago this was. It was like in the 1930s, 1933 or something. And, like, the very first ever super thing that Superman did to be heroic was the very first thing that he was seen doing that was heroic was stopping a guy from abusing his wife. You see what I'm saying? That's the first thing. Like, the very first thing in a 1930 comic, that was the first thing he did, right? Just to put that in perspective. And it's like, I don't really read a lot of Marvel like talking about, but even still, you have to take into consideration that you know these superheroes have never actually been for mistreating anybody. They were always about, like, saving people who were being hurt. Like, I never understood the concept about, like, people saying stuff like, "There goes the left destroying comics again." It's like, all right, without going too into detail about the first Superman comic, because I actually read it. I got the DC app, so I'm like, I was rabbit holing the heck out of the DC universe, and I'm telling you, it's really weird, man. Like, too many splinters, too many weird moments where characters got rewritten and revamped and all this other weirdness, whatever. But I'm not gonna get into that. What I'm gonna get into is the very first time I ever seen, um, the very first time I ever like seen the Superman comic. He Somebody got trapped in a mine shaft, and Superman was like basically, saying, like, he as Clark Kent went over to the CEO of the mine shaft and was like, "Yo, somebody got trapped in the mine shaft. Are you aware of that?" He's like going, "Yeah, I'm aware of that, but they'll be okay because like, I got everything taken care of." It's like going, "Well, apparently you don't, because this mine shaft trapped this guy in there, and it kind of took him a while to get out." And he's like going, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, but don't worry, it'll take care of itself, right?" So Superman, as Clark Kent, gets invited by the CEO to a party, and for some weird reason they end up at the same mine shaft where the guy got trapped at. They're drunk and they're just like, mine shaft party, and then they sober up and like, yo, we're stuck here. And that's the short end of it. You know what I'm saying? Granted, at the ending, the CEO is like, wait a minute, like I realize how bad the work conditions are now, and I'm going to change the policy and change everything up so that they're safe down there because I know what it's like now. Basically, Superman forced this guy to feel empathy. You know what I mean? And that's like, I mean, this is basically Superman using his powers to get a rich guy to do something right by the workers. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think I don't like that's. I feel like that's a metaphor for the Union. And that's not even counting the fact that Superman once like stopped a war that was motivated by a gun manufacturer by basically taking the two people who started the war, putting them in the building, and going, "All right, scrap, fight each other. If you two don't fight each other, I will beat both y'all up." And the two guys are like, "But we don't want to fight each other though." He's like, "Well, why'd you start the war then? We don't know." It's like what I'm trying to bring up is that like back in the day, in the early days of the Action Comics, I need to know specifically, when has it ever been right wing? Like how would you even write a right wing superhero now? Just putting it in perspective, what would you like, if you had to create a right wing superhero, how would that go? What powers would that person have? Like, would they? I mean, what would they do? Who would their nemesis be? Would the nemesis, like, as a matter of fact, I already know who the nemesis would be. Obviously, people of color who destroy property. You know, LGBTQ people that are trying to turn everybody else like them, or radical left who is trying to turn everybody into, I don't know, whatever. But the fact is that, like, what would this right wing super, if you had to write a right wing superhero, what would they be? Because like I think a lot of, well, one thing that some people actually said was that Batman is a right wing superhero, but it's like he doesn't like guns, he doesn't kill people. His friend is basically an alien from outer space who people rely on to save their lives. I mean, like, if anything, just those three concepts alone would make him a stereotypical liberal by right wing standards. So it's like Batman's out. Punisher basically outright said that he doesn't support this sort of stuff. It's just like, I need to know specifically if there was a right wing character, like if you had to write a right wing superhero, what would that superhero be? Like, what would the concepts be? What would the values of that character be? Because it's just really, really, really confusing. Because I don't even know what being of the right even means anymore. After January 6th, like that stuff confuses me now. These are just things I think about. It's like when people say the left ruined the comics, but it's like, what about the comics has ever been right wing? Like, what is it specifically? Feel free to explain below, I guess. This video is going on too long, but that's it. Love, peace. I have a good one, and be safe out there.